Hello and welcome to TrackVia's Turning Ideas into Apps, our low-code TrackVia demo. My name is Michelle Martz Mayfield. I'm the PR and Corporate Communications Manager here at TrackVia. And we're going to start out with just a few housekeeping ideas, just so that everybody's on the same page. You have started out in listen-only mode. Please continue to be in listen-only mode for the duration of this demo. That way everyone can hear what's going on. If you have a question, please submit it via our chat window and we will try to address those at the end of the presentation. For those that we don't get to, we'll address those in a follow-up email. The webinar is being recorded and we will send you that recording up to 48 hours after the demo is over. I think that finishes up all of our housekeeping items. Brandon is your demo person for today, so I will hand it over to Brandon Gill and enjoy the demo.
Great. Thanks so much, Michelle. Hi, everyone. As Michelle mentioned, my name is Brandon Gill. I am our manager of our solutions consulting here at TrackVia. And just a few different things that we're going to cover today over the next half an hour is we're going to talk a little bit about who TrackVia is. We're going to talk a little bit about what is low code, which is the technology space that TrackVia plays in. We're going to talk about who can use low code, and then we're going to spend a majority of our time actually in a live demonstration of a low code use case and a common use case that we hear here at TrackVia and how you can leverage these tools to accomplish different things with the technology. So a little bit about us here at TrackVia. We were founded in 2006. And for a little context, depending on the sources you ask, most people will tell you that the term low code really originated around 2005. So we do see ourselves as a very big pioneer in this space, and it is a growing space, and we'll cover that here in just a few minutes. We're headquartered in Denver, Colorado, with about 75 employees or so and over 350 different customers. I've got some of those customers included on the slide to the right here, and I really bring this group of customers together not to showcase their logos, but more to talk about the diversity of customers that we have at TrackVia because of the diversity of use cases you can solve with low code. So very quickly, if we run through these, the North Face uses us on their manufacturing and production line for custom order fulfillment and things like that. KSI is a big company out in the oil fields in Bakersfield. They use us for a handful of different field service use cases like safety checks and asset tracking and things like that. Stearns Home Loans is in the financial services space. They use us for pre-funding of loans and post-closing of loans and a host of other applications as well. Honeywell uses us on their procurement team. Las Vegas Sands uses us for their anti-money laundering organization. And Deep Roots Harvest is actually a cannabis customer of ours out in Nevada that uses us for their entire operation. They run everything short of accounting off of TrackVia. So give you a little taste for the diversity of use cases you can accomplish using a low code technology should be a nice intro into our next slide, which talks a little bit about what low code is. It's a term that you'll hear me use a lot. As I mentioned earlier, it is the technology space that TrackVia plays in. And if we just look at the textbook definition of low code, it goes a little something like this. It's software that provides a development environment used to create applications through graphical user interfaces and configuration instead of traditional hand-coded computer programming. What that really means is you can build very robust business applications with dragging and dropping of different elements on the screen and never having to write code if you don't want to. Now, we are a low code solution, so that differentiates us from a no code solution. So you do have the ability to inject code into the software for some more advanced capabilities, but a majority of our customers don't need to take advantage of those capabilities and can still build very robust applications with the no code piece of TrackVia. Now, when it comes to low code, I mentioned earlier that this is a growing space. And if we think about what the spectrum of low code looks like, it looks a little something like this. So many different prospects and customers come to us originally because they're on the lightweight side of this spectrum. They're using tools like Excel and Access Database and Google Sheets. And technically, these are considered low code tools. You don't have to know how to code to build a very robust Excel application or an Access database, but they tend to have some problems with scalability after a while. As your business continues to grow and you get more data and your processes change, it just gets harder and harder to manage those things, especially if you're collecting data from multiple departments or multiple people. On the right-hand side, you've got developer toolkits, which are things like OutSystems and Appian. These are still technically considered low-code systems, but you actually need to know how to program to use these tools. They give you a framework to start with, but you still have to know how to write code. So they're still lumped into low-code, although this space is changing and some of the analysts are starting to create subsections of low-code. But as it stands today, this is the big spectrum of low-code. And for TrackVia, we fit right in the middle in what I would consider to be a true low-code system. We combine all the great elements of the lightweight tools and some of the more robust elements of the heavyweight tools into an easy-to-use platform that allows people to build more scalable solutions for their organizations without compromising on complexities or needing to know how to code or any of those things. So it makes for a really nice user experience, both for the builder and for the end user. With that being said, who can use low code? The simple answer is everyone. So at TrackVia, we really cater to business users. They utilize low code all the time to build out these applications. These are not programmers. Most of our admins are not programmers. In fact, I myself am not a programmer. But they're folks that understand processes really well. They understand data and how data should flow, and they're able to build these applications without needing to bother IT. We do also have IT professionals that take advantage of TrackVia and see it as another tool in their tool belt to stand up business applications very quickly. When the business is asking for things, they can be trained on this very easily because it kind of speaks in a similar language to them, and they can stand these things up very quickly. All that being said, we're now going to jump into a live demo of TrackVia to give you a sense for what low code looks like, and we'll walk through a use case of low code that we hear pretty commonly. So what we're going to walk through today is a quality control inspection example. Now, as I mentioned earlier, the examples that we can showcase with low code are very vast and they span a lot of different industries. So even if this is not necessarily your industry or your use case, I invite you to use your imagination a little bit and see how some of the tools that we're going to walk through might apply to what you want to do with a low code technology. But in this case, what we're going to do is we're going to start as an inspector, and then an inspector is going to complete a mobile inspection on one of our products and fail that inspection. They will then assign a fault code to that inspection, which will alert our QC manager of the failure. The QC manager can assign a corrective action out to one of our suppliers, who is a third-party representative in this use case. The supplier can then implement that corrective action and submit it back to the QC manager for approval. All the while, the QC manager is able to analyze real-time KPIs throughout the product's life cycle, so we can always see what's going on and get really easy visualizations into our data. That being said, let's go ahead and actually jump into the software here. So I've clicked over to a new tab here, and what you are looking at is TrackVia. So I want to start by giving you a little orientation to the screen here. So in the top left-hand corner, is our TrackVia logo. And this can, of course, be custom branded to your organization. So we can put your logo up here. We can custom brand the URL so it really looks and feels like it is your system. Right next to that, you'll see that I'm currently in our quality control inspection application. And this is, again, just an example application. TrackVia is completely customizable to fit your use case. And what we always say is we want to be a 100% fit to your use case. We don't want your use case to have to conform to our software, because that's the traditional way of buying software. And that's really what we want to stray away from. We want to be a perfect fit for what you do today and how you want to scale into the future. But we'll start in quality control inspection. But what I like to do for folks is take a look here at all of the different example applications I have in this particular account. So things like asset tracking, facilities audit, inventory tracking, invoice approvals, production management. The list really goes on. And as I mentioned earlier, it spans the gamut of different things that we can do. Really, anytime that you need to track data and move it between different departments or people is a great use case for TrackVia. And we do everything from full-blown complex manufacturing processes to very simple things like vacation monitoring or maintenance requests and things like that. So use cases big and small, all good fits for TrackVia. Now you'll see a little banner here that pops up once in a while that just says a new version of this app is available. I'm just going to go ahead and reload that. And just for you, everyone on the line's edification, we do product releases every 2 weeks in TrackVia. Oftentimes these are small releases, but we work off of an agile framework here that allows us to do these releases seamlessly. So we have no downtime when we do these releases, and that's one of the power of being a cloud hosted solution is we can roll out these things very quickly without having a lot of downtime for maintenance or anything like that. In fact, over the last 12 months, we are very proud to say we've been uptime of 100% for TrackVia. All right, let's continue on with the screen here. So I'm currently logged in as an admin, so I have access to this admin toolbar, and I can see a handful of different dashboards here that I have access to. And these dashboards are meant to represent different elements that an end user might want to see. So I've got some things like some shortcut buttons here. We've got more of a grid type view, a chart view here, some maps. So you'll see different elements as we go throughout these dashboards. And again, designed to give each user their own user experience to see data and information that's relevant to them. Now, in this case, what we want to do is we want to start a QC inspection so that we can go through that inspection, fail it, and alert our manager. And to do that, I'm actually going to use a mobile device. So at TrackVia, we're very proud to say that we do have a native mobile application. It's one of the strong suits of our product. It's something that we've really taken a lot of time and energy into building out over the years. So if I hit this home button on the iPad in front of me, you're actually going to see a TrackVia logo that I click into. So it's not a responsive website or anything like that. It is a native app that you can download in both iOS and Android. Now, the nice things about having a native app is, for one, anything that we build on the desktop is automatically going to be available for us on the mobile. So it's very seamless to shift between the two, depending on your work conditions and things like that. The other thing that you'll see as we go throughout the mobile experience is it allows us to take advantage of the device's capabilities. So things like barcode scanning, photo capture, location capture, all of that's fair game when we're on a mobile device. We also have the ability to capture data offline on mobile. So if you're working in environments where maybe you don't have the best service, you can still capture that data, and when we're back into service, it'll all sync back up to the database. All right, let's go ahead now and start a QC inspection. And when I do this, this is going to walk us through a simple workflow of questions that we will ask for our particular QC inspection. All of the fields that you're seeing here are totally customizable, so they can really fit your use case. They could fit the things that you want to capture. So if you want to remove the inspector field or you want to add new fields to this, it's very easy to do so. In my case, I've got a date and time field that's actually defaulted to the date and time that I clicked that button, so we can set different form rules to make it really easy on our end users to fill information in. I'm going to say who's our inspector in this case. This will give me a drop-down list of inspectors, and I'll just select myself. We'll say what product are we inspecting, and let's just say we're inspecting a scrubber. And then for this serial number, what you can do is you can actually do a barcode scan to grab a serial number. I've got a little emergency poncho sitting in front of me. We're supposed to get a lot of wet snow in Denver over the next couple of days, so I grabbed that to grab the serial number. And we can do a location capture, and this is going to tag itself to the location of the mobile device here at my apartment in Broomfield, Colorado. We'll go ahead and hit next on that. And when I do so, it's going to take me to the next step, which is some questions that we're going to ask for our QC inspection. So you can see all the information we've already captured is available here. My location's already there. I get some reference product information, and this product information is based on the fact that I selected a scrubber. Had I selected a different product, I'd see some different information here. Be really easy for me to shift between the two, but in this case, it's just showing it for the scrubber. I've got some PDF documentation in here as well, so we can attach things like PDFs, Word docs, Excel files, you name it. We can attach it into TrackVia records to stay with us throughout the workflow. And then if I go down here, we can get to our inspection steps where I've got some basic questions. So is the wiring properly labeled? And we've got an example of what that should look like. We'll say yes. Are the gaskets tightly sealed? We'll say yes. Where's the safety sticker? We'll say it's on the front. And then for this question 4, it's our visual inspection result. What's happening here is there's actually a show hide rule in place, so that if I pass this, I don't have to do anything. I can just continue on, answer the rest of the questions. However, if I fail this, it's going to prompt me to enter a fault code. So it's a show hide rule here, and we'll just say in this case it was the wrong material. Now those show hide rules and the different form rules we can set up can make it really easy for end users to fill out these forms, and it actually makes the adoption of TrackVia go up a lot because people don't have to answer questions that maybe they don't need to answer. You can only show them data that's really relevant to the task that they're doing right now. Got a tolerance measurement we can fill in here, so let's just say that's 100. And then we can start to attach some notes. Now the other nice thing about mobile is we can use talk to text. These are my notes. And that'll go right in there. So if you're working with gloves or some other field service use case, it's very easy to do that, or some people just prefer it. And then of course we can do some photo capture. So I've got a water bottle sitting on my desk here, so I can grab a photo of that. And then we can actually draw on these photos as well. So you can see that I've got a dent in my water bottle, so maybe I want to call that out. Maybe that's the issue with my quality control checklist there. Finally, I can sign off. And what I tell people about the sign off is it can be a really important thing depending on the industry you work with, depending on your use case. But we also have a full audit history in TrackVia that will always tell us who did what, when, and where within the software. So we always know who's doing what. We'll go ahead and complete that, and that's just going to take us back out to the dashboard on the mobile device. And if I go ahead and I move that mobile device back over and I refresh my screen, we're going to see the updated inspection that we just did here show up as the first one as on our inspection results. So everything updates in real time in TrackVia. If I were to click into this, I get a full breakdown of everything that we just captured, including the photo and the signature there. Now there's a couple of other things that have happened as well. One of those being, if I pull over my email, what you're going to see is that 0 minutes ago, I received this email notification from TrackVia that tells me we had a failure, this is going to the manager, and a little bit of information about the inspection itself. Excuse me. So these email notifications can be really great because they can show you very quickly what's going on in the system. They can alert people to get into the system and do something. We call this acting on the data. So it's that movement of data and alerting of folks of what needs to happen next in a workflow so that nothing gets lost in the traffic. So now that we've done this inspection, we've gotten that email notification, I'm going to shift over to the QC Manager dashboard where we're going to see some different element types that reflect more of what a manager might want to see. So we've got tasks that need a corrective action assigned. We've got approved and rejected corrective actions. I can see some breakdowns of our suppliers, so I can do some supplier scorecarding there. So just a little more of a view that a manager might care about. Now, what I can do in this case is we can take a look at the inspection we just completed, which we failed. And if I click into it, I can see all of the information that was captured, and I can now assign a corrective action to one of our suppliers. So if I hit this plus button here, it's going to ask me to fill in some information for this corrective action and assign it to one of our suppliers. So if I hit this drop down here, let's assign it to the supplier Augustus Corp. And let's just fill in some information and say part was made of wrong material, something like that. We'll hit save on that, and then I'll just save changes to this. And when I do so, I get a little pop-up here that says your last change caused this record to leave the view. Now, what that's saying is if I go back out to the dashboard, we had that record here, it's now gone because this is only showing tasks that need that corrective action to be assigned. So since we've assigned it, it's left that view. So very easy to make checklists of work that needs to be done and just start to go through those checklists. Now that that's happened, I'll shift over to our supplier portal. And this is meant to represent a third-party user of TrackVia, someone who's a supplier of ours that might be able to log in and see all the information as it's coming to them real time. So we can push this to users that are not part of our organization and permiss them accordingly so they only see information that's relevant to them. So if we had another supplier log in, they wouldn't see any of Augustus Corp's information, they would only see their information, and that's what we're reflecting here as well. So if we take a look here, we've got some basic information. We also have the corrective action that we just started with here. So if we now just take this card and we can pick it up and move it over to investigating cause. So it's just an easy way for us to visualize where things are at. That might send an email notification back to the parent company, letting them know that we're working on it. There's a lot of things that can happen at that point. And now I can click into here and I can see again, all of the information that's been filled in, but you'll notice there's locks on everything. So my permissions are that I cannot change anything that originally happened in the inspection. And I can just go down here as a supplier and say the primary cause was a bad batch of material. And the corrective actions, we will send a new part. I can also attach other things to this as well. So if we want to bring down a PDF and say maybe here's proof that it was a bad batch or something like that, we can include that. Maybe we'll say these are product specifications. And then I'll just move this from investigating cause to corrective action implemented. If I save this, it'll then just make that card jump again over to our corrective action implemented stage. Finally, to round out our workflow, if we go back to the QC manager view, we can see that that corrective action is now in this queue that I need to look at to approve or reject these corrective actions. So I can click into there. I can see all the information. I can see what the supplier said. And in this case, I will just approve it and hit save on that. So we've gone through quite a bit in a short amount of time, but just to recap, we were able to do an inspection on a mobile device. We failed that inspection, which alerted our manager that we needed a corrective action assigned. That manager was able to look over that information and assign a corrective action out to one of our suppliers. That supplier was able to receive that and issue a corrective action, which then went back to our manager for approval of that corrective action. Again, might not be a perfect use case for everyone on the line, but should at least give you a sense of the ways we can move data around TrackVia and the ways we can showcase this data and show things off to any of our end users for any of our use cases. Now we've got about 10 minutes left, and I have a few different things I want to showcase to everybody before we get to questions. One being analytics that we have. Now we can do just about any type of analytics here within TrackVia. You're seeing some basic examples of like a Pareto chart, some line charts, bar charts, pie charts, and things like that. So there's a lot of different ways we can set those things up. What I always tell people is if you can track it in TrackVia, you can chart it in TrackVia. And the nice thing is, again, all this information will be real time. So as new information comes in, the charts will update, so you always have real-time reporting. Additionally, all of these charts are fully drillable. So if I want to look at the weekly inspection trend and I want to say, show me the inspections I've done this week, I can click into it. We can see the inspection that we just completed for that scrubber. I can click into that. I can see all the information that we just captured here with my signature, photo of my water bottle. I can then even roll all this data up to the scrubber level and say, show me all the inspections we've done for all the times we've done scrubbers. What's the first time pass on scrubbers? So you can collect data at any level and roll it up and get really nice reporting that you can either share out or just keep within TrackVia. The final piece that I want to showcase to everyone is just how easy it is to make a change to a TrackVia application. We've talked a lot about low code and how low code's really easy. You don't have to be a programmer, things like that. So I want to show you a little example of that. Now it's a pretty simple example, but what we're going to do is we're going to add a field onto a table and then add that field onto a form so we can collect a new piece of information. Now if we want to do that, we're going to start on our tables dropdown of our admin toolbar. And underlying TrackVia applications is a relational database. So it's made up of a series of tables. So if I go down to one of my tables, let's do our QC inspections table, and I edit it, what we get is our table editor. On the left-hand side, you can see all of the different field types that we have. So we've got text fields and number fields that we're typically going to type into in this case. We've got drop downs and checkboxes that keep our data really clean. We've got date and time fields. We've got some specialty fields, location fields, as well as calculated fields. And these calculated fields could be akin to anything you might do in Excel or something like that. In the middle is all of the raw data that's being captured on this particular table. We might not expose all this information, but in its most raw sense, this is what's being captured on the table. And if we want to add to it, like maybe we just want to add another question here, all we have to do is say, what type of field do we want? Let's take a drop-down list, drag it over, and drop it in place. And we'll just say, this is what color paint did we use? Perfect. So let's include that. Let's give it some options, red, blue, white, and we'll hit save on that. And that's all it takes for us to add a new field onto a table. No coding required, very straightforward, very easy to do as our processes scale or things change. Now what I want to do is I want to actually add that to a form so that we can collect that information. So I'm going to shift over to our form editor. And it looks pretty similar to our table editor. Again, left-hand side is fields we can use. Right-hand side is how we actually want the form to be laid out. And I'll just take this what color paint did we use and just drag it over, and I'll drop it down into our inspection steps questions. I can make this bigger, I can make this smaller, I can actually click into the individual field and make it required if I want, or do some show hide rule on it. Let's go ahead and make it required in this case. I can change the colors to these things and really lay out this form however I want. I'm going to go ahead and hit save on this. And now, because everything updates in real time, if we go back out to our dashboard and we bring our mobile device back over, what I can do is let's just do another quick QC inspection. And I'll say, who am I? Let's just pick myself again. Let's just pick a new product this time. Let's do a caster. Let's just manually type in a serial number, grab my location, and we'll hit next. Now, since we selected a caster in this case, we're going to see some different reference product information here. So it's got a different photo and different information there. But if we go down to our inspection steps here, if we scroll all the way to the bottom, there's that field we just added. What color paint did we use, red, white, or blue? And we can see it has an asterisk there because it is a required field. So we have to fill it in before we continue on in our workflow. Now I want to pause here. That's a lot of information that we just covered in the last 25 minutes or so, but hopefully that gives you a really good insight into the different tools of TrackVia, the tools of low code, and how it might be applied to your industry or your use case. We have about 5 minutes left, so I do want to pop back over to this presentation just to cover off on a couple more things and address a couple of the questions that we've had come through as well. So some quick final notes, just to recap what Michelle covered in the beginning. An email with a recording of this webinar will be sent to everyone on the line within 48 hours. So if you want to share it around, you can do that. It'll also be available on our YouTube channel. We also really value your feedback on these. We do these webinars monthly for existing customers, for prospective customers, and even just for anybody who wants to learn about low code and see what value it might bring to their business. So we're always trying to improve. So there will be a real short survey that comes up after this webinar closes. It's 3 questions. Would love it if you could fill that out for me and let me know how we did. And then if you want any more immediate information, feel free to send me an email and I can point you in the right direction or answer any questions that you might have. Now we do have a couple of different questions that came through in the chat box, so I want to make sure to address at least a few of them in the time that we have remaining. One question coming to us states, can you query data from tables and create reports? So the simple answer there, it's a great question. The simple answer there is yes, but we don't think of querying data in the same way that you might when it comes to like MySQL or something like that. All of our tables allow you to look at all the data, and it can be vast. We've got customers with over 10 million records, and there's easy search bars that you can search for different types of data, and it will filter it for you. We can assign quick filters on that data so that you could say, you know, show me all the failed inspections, show me all the past inspections, show me inspections between this date and this date, whatever the case may be. So you can query data in that way. It's just not quite the same as writing a query in MySQL or something like that. And then you can certainly break that data down and create reports on it. So if you want to do, again, like historical information and stuff like that, you can look at historical information and just break it down, you know, from the table like that and create charts and things like that from it. So hopefully that answers that question. If there's any more you want to know about that, again, feel free to send me an email. Let's see, another question is regarding the iOS app you showed, how do you deliver that app to the end users? If via the App Store, how did the app get submitted to the App Store? Great question. So the app gets delivered to end users by them downloading it through the App Store. So if you go to the Apple App Store, the Google Play Store, and you search TrackVia, our mobile app will come up. They can download it. And then when they download it, it'll actually have a username and password button for them to fill in. So you'll permiss them with the username and password through the desktop version of TrackVia. Then they just have to use that username and password to log in on the mobile side, and they will have access to whatever apps and views and dashboards you've permissed them to on the desktop side. So it's all the same app, it's all the same TrackVia app that you download in the App Store, but it's just unique logins that you use. Now, we do also offer a more enterprise feature, but we call it a white labeling of a mobile application. So if you don't want it to say TrackVia and you want everything TrackVia removed from your mobile experience and you want it to be custom branded to your organization, we do offer that to where you actually manage it in your version of the App Store and things like that. And you can manage version releases and stuff like that. So that's more of an enterprise feature, but in general, anybody can download the TrackVia app, and if you have access to a TrackVia account, you can log in as you would on the desktop, and you have access to anything that you would have access to on the desktop or on the computer. We do have a couple more questions, but I'm just taking a look at the time here. We like to keep these webinars nice and tight, so I do want to thank you all once again for attending. Again, that survey will pop up as we finish here and would love your feedback. And again, if you have any other questions, feel free to shoot me an email or reach out at any time. We'd be happy to take on some additional questions. Thanks, everyone.